The first notice came nailed to my gate like a threat, flapping in the hot wind, bright red letters screaming "Final Eviction Warning" across land my grandfather had bled for. I remember standing there in the dust, my boots sinking into the soil I'd grown up on, my hands shaking not from fear, but from disbelief. 30 years on this ranch, 30 years of sunrise chores, busted knuckles, droughts, floods, funerals, and births. And some stranger thought she could erase it all with a piece of paper and a plastic badge. That morning, the cattle were restless, sensing something was wrong. The sky was low and gray, pressing down on my chest the same way that notice did. I tore it down slowly, reading every word like it might change if I blinked. Unauthorized occupancy, violation of HOA covenants, immediate compliance required. No name at the bottom, just a signature stamp. Cedar Valley Unified HOA Authority. I laughed once, sharp and bitter, the sound echoing across the open land. And HOA, on a working ranch. My ranch? I'm Daniel Mercer, third-generation rancher. Widower, father of one grown daughter who moved away because this place hurt too much after her mother died. I look like what I am, sunburn, gray creeping into my beard. Shoulders worn down by decades of honest work. What nobody sees at first glance is what I did before I came back home for good. They don't see the years I spent in courtrooms, boardrooms, and federal buildings. They don't see the reason I know exactly how HOAs work, how they break people, and how they're supposed to be controlled. Cedar Valley was never supposed to touch my land. The ranch predates the subdivision by almost 70 years. When the developers came, I was the one who negotiated the boundary agreements. I signed the documents myself, ironclad exclusions, filed at the county level, reviewed by attorneys who cost more per hour than most people make in a day. My land was exempt, always had been, always would be, or so I thought. Her name was Linda Hawthorne. I learned it the hard way. She showed up 2 days later in a white SUV that kicked dust onto my porch like an insult. She stepped out wearing oversized sunglasses and a smile that didn't reach her eyes, clipboard tucked under her arm like a weapon. She didn't greet me, didn't ask my name, just looked past me at the ranch house and sighed like it offended her. Mr. Mercer, she said, drawing out the syllables as if tasting them. You've been non-compliant for years. I told her she was trespassing. She laughed, actually laughed. This entire valley falls under Cedar Valley Unified HOA jurisdiction now. You were notified. I told her I wasn't part of her HOA. She leaned closer, lowering her voice, savoring the moment. Everyone is part of it eventually. That was the first punchline. The kind that lands quietly, deep in the gut. Within weeks, the harassment escalated. Fines appeared in my mailbox for things I'd done my entire life. Unapproved fencing, agricultural noise violations, unsightly equipment visible from community roads. They fined me for my cattle, for my tractors, for my windmill, for the American flag on my porch because it was weathered. I appealed properly, legally. I sent copies of the exclusion documents, certified mail, emails, phone calls, nothing. They rejected every appeal without explanation. Linda presided over the meetings like a queen on a plastic throne, tapping her pen while residents whispered behind her. I wasn't invited to speak. I wasn't even acknowledged. Then came the real humiliation. One afternoon, while I was repairing a broken water line, two sheriff's deputies pulled up. My heart dropped into my boots. I wiped my hands and walked toward them, already bracing myself. Mr. Mercer, one said, awkward, clearly uncomfortable. We've been asked to serve you with an eviction notice. I stared at him, stunned. Eviction from my own land? Linda stood behind them, arms crossed, smiling. That smile again. The one that said she enjoyed this. The one that said she believed she was untouchable. You've refused to comply, she said loudly, so the neighbors gathering at the fence could hear. The HOA has voted to reclaim the property. Reclaim. Like I was a squatter. Like my family hadn't built this place from nothing. That night, I sat alone in the house, The silence louder than any argument. My wife's chair was still by the window. I hadn't moved it since the cancer took her. I felt small for the first time in decades. Not because I was wrong, but because I was being crushed by a system designed to exhaust people into surrender. That was the point. They didn't need to win. They just needed me to quit. They didn't know who they were dealing with. I spent the next 3 nights digging through old files, making calls I hadn't made in years. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't threaten. I just asked questions. Quiet ones, precise ones. The kind that make people nervous. By the end of the week, I had confirmation. Cedar Valley Unified HOA had quietly merged 6 smaller HOA letters into one mega authority without proper county approval. They'd expanded boundaries illegally. They'd falsified jurisdiction maps. They'd bullied dozens of homeowners into compliance. Settlements that were never lawful. And Linda Hawthorne, she wasn't just a president. She was using her position to force land sales to a developer her brother owned shares in. The eviction hearing was scheduled for a Tuesday morning. The HOA expected me to show up alone, tired, desperate, ready to bargain away my land just to make it stop. Instead, I walked in calm, carrying one slim folder. Linda smirked when she saw me. "You're late," she said. I sat down. "No, I'm right on time." She launched into her speech, voice dripping with authority, painting me as a stubborn old man clinging to property he didn't understand anymore. She talked about community standards, progress, harmony. Every word was a lie dressed in polite language. When it was my turn, I stood slowly. "I don't recognize this tribunal," I said, "but since you've dragged me here, I'll make this quick." I opened the folder and slid a document across the table. Linda didn't touch it. "You might want to read that," I said. She did. Her smile faltered, just for a second. It was a federal compliance notice, not against me, against Cedar Valley Unified HOA. Signed, stamped, effective immediately. Jurisdiction revoked pending investigation. Assets frozen. Authority suspended. The room went silent. I kept going, my voice steady, clear, carrying years of restrained fury. For those of you who don't know, before I came back to run this ranch, I spent 20 years designing oversight frameworks for homeowner associations. I helped write the guidelines that allow them to exist. I consult on disputes at the national level. And yes, I looked directly at Linda. I oversee the compliance systems that every HOA in this country answers to. Her face went pale. "The fines you issued are illegal. The eviction attempt is criminal. And the land grab you orchestrated." I paused. "That's fraud." Someone dropped a pen. Someone else whispered my name like a rumor coming true. Linda tried to speak. No sound came out. Within days, Cedar Valley Unified HOA collapsed. Bank accounts seized. Board members resigned. Investigators showed up with boxes and badges. Residents who had been silenced for years suddenly found their voices. As for Linda, she was removed, charged, and banned permanently from serving on any HOA board in the country. The developer deal vanished overnight. The eviction notice nailed to my gate. I burned it. Weeks later, my daughter came to visit. She stood on the porch, looking out over the land, the same way she used to as a kid. "You didn't have to fight them alone," she said softly. I shook my head. I never was. The ranch is quiet. Again, the cattle graze, the windmill turns, and every time I pass that gate, I'm reminded of a simple truth HOAs love to forget. Power only works when people don't know the rules, and this time, the rules answered back.